Welcome back to the Profit Builder Unscripted. Today we're talking about how do you set and create a vision for what you want to create in your business and your life in a really powerful way that actually has it come to fruition. All right, let's jump in. One of the greatest ways that I know to create more success in your business is to plan for it. And that includes both from a dollars and cents perspective, but also from just a business operational strategic perspective. And one of the things that I do with my clients at the beginning of every year is that right after we do the process of celebrating your wins for the previous year, which, by the way, if you haven't listened to that recording, it's the one just before this. I highly encourage you to do that exercise. But this one is about what's your vision for the next year? What do you want to have accomplished? So imagine that we're having a conversation and it's the end of December 2025. What do you want to be able to say that you got done? What do you want to be able to say that you accomplished? What new ground do you want to take? What new experiences do you want to have? What new learning do you want to take on? What I find, and this is not a time to create a project plan. It doesn't matter how you're going to have done it. So one of the things that I notice when I do this exercise sometimes with people is that they struggle with if they don't know how they're actually going to accomplish whatever that vision or goal is, then they have a hard time saying that they're going to do it, right? Because I think that, it comes out of that we don't want to make mistakes or we don't want to say that we're going to do something when we don't know how to do it. But the truth is that the first thing that it's just like a project that you're doing for a home, right? Or a renovation or a remodel or a repair or building something. The very first thing that you do is you assess kind of where it's starting out. And then the second thing that you do is you create a blueprint or a schematic or some kind of an idea of what's it going to look like when it's done, right? You don't demo a house and then look up and go, all right, what do you want to do next? Right? What you do is you create a blueprint to go, okay, we're gonna redo your kitchen or we're gonna redo your bathroom. And what do you want it to look like? And what's the budget and what's it going to cost and what kind of materials you're going to use and so on. It's like you figure out but the first thing is before you even figure out what are the materials, what's it going to cost, so on and so forth, you first create a vision. You create like a blueprint. And once you have that blueprint, then standing at the end, looking backwards, then you can go, all right, well, what's it going to cost to do that? What kind of materials do you want? So on and so forth, right? You figure out the strategy to get you from where you are to where that client wants to be on that project. But first, you have to determine where do you want to go. So the same thing is true for your business. So my question to you is, what do you want to create in 2025? So imagine that we're sitting down having a conversation and it's December of 2025 or January of 2026. And I say, hey, what are your wins for last year? What did you get accomplished? Some things that come to mind that clients have shared with me. Sometimes it's, I met a 12% net operating profit goal. Or it could be I developed these new relationships with these general contractors. Or I have solidified relationships with these subcontractors during the year. Or I've written position agreements for everybody on my team. Or I've got, 3 months worth of overhead in cash reserves. Or my wife and I, or my husband and I, or whatever, went on this amazing vacation to Italy and had an incredible time. Um, I spent more time with my kids. I went to all of the baseball games or all of the performances, right? Whatever it is. So it can be personal and business, But what it does is it starts to create a blueprint. And the clearer that is, the more you kind of codify it, the easier it is to then go, all right, starting with the end in mind and working our way backwards, what would I have to do in order to create that? But first, you have to create the blueprint. And here's the interesting thing. So, a couple of things about when you're creating a vision like this. One is put it in writing. So, a vision between our two ears is a good idea. It's not really a vision. A goal between our two ears isn't really a goal. It's just a good idea. So, putting it in writing, super powerful. The second thing is don't get caught up in the how, because it doesn't really matter at this point, right? The more clarity, just like when you're doing a project, right? The clearer that blueprint is and all the specs are of what needs to happen, what's the ideal outcome. You know this. The clearer that is, the easier it is for you to then go, oh, here's what's going to take to get from where you are to where you want to be. Here's what it's going to cost. Here's what's going to be involved in labor, materials, subs, whatever, right? So the how is not the next question to ask. The first question is, what would you like? What would you like it to look like? What do you want to be able to say that you got accomplished? And I encourage you to do this both professionally and personally. It's really, it's such a powerful exercise. And when I do this, like I said, at the beginning of the year with all of my clients. And occasionally during the year, I'll send it to them, right? I'll go, hey, how you doing? Like, quarterly, semi-annually, whatever. And then for sure, at the end of the year, we look up and go, hey, how did you do? Because it's a great way to start out the next year with what did I get accomplished? And then adding to that list of, well, I got this done, I didn't get done. Great. What worked? What didn't work? What else did you get accomplished? So, but the first thing is set a goal, because just like a project, you have some vision of what you want to create. Being able to do that for ourselves and our business and in our lives strikes the odds in our favor of being able to accomplish it. Now, here's another interesting thing about how our brains work from a neuroscience perspective. The clearer a picture is in our head of what we want to accomplish, the clearer it becomes for our systems to, or our neurology to want to take action in support of whatever that vision is. So here's a little tip when you do this. As you're doing it, our brains make pictures in different places. So up to your left, because you're looking at me, so up to your left, up here, is a quadrant of our brain called visual recall. It's where we make pictures and we reference previous experiences or pictures of different events. Or if I said to you, how many doorknobs are there in your household? You would make a picture up in your head and then you would do the calculation and you'd go through rumor and figure it out, and then you'd have an answer. Okay, so when we're doing visioning, it's better that we look up to the right. And this is the right on your side. What happens up to the right is what's the quadrant of our brain called visual construct, if you will. It's like having a blank canvas. And what's cool about that is when you can create pictures for yourself up to the right, like a blank canvas, what it actually does is it starts to make pictures in your brain of, well, what will that look like? Now, here's a little trick, is to add to it, what will it look like? And then what will it feel like? Because when you can attach a picture and a feeling of what will it look like and what will it feel like when you accomplish that. Let's say, as an example, you made 12% net profit. So maybe that's one of the visions that you have for this year. What will it feel like when you've made 12% on the bottom line after paying yourself a really good salary? How would that feel? Like, or maybe it's just I've set some financial goals of what I want on the bottom line and what I want for a salary for myself, and I've accomplished it. It's happened. What will that feel like? Or my team is taking more ownership and they're more accountable. and they're taking more initiative. What will it feel like when that happens? Right. So I encourage you to create a picture and then get in touch with what will it feel like. But first, create your vision. Then, as you're going, go back through your list and then create a picture of, well, what will that look like when that's done? And what will it feel like? Here's an interesting thing. Our brain doesn't know the difference between a remembered picture and a created picture, because if that picture is super clear, it will actually become a referential point through which your system and your body and your brain and you will make decisions and take actions. It's just kind of how we work. It's kind of a cool thing of how our brains are wired. So make your list. One. Two, make a picture of what will that look like when it's already accomplished. And then stop and ask yourself the question, what will that feel like? So maybe the picture is you see yourself sitting at your kids' baseball games, right? And like cheering them on, and you're on the bleachers and it's really cool. Like, what will that feel like? Oh my gosh, I love it being here. I love being able to support my kid. I love being able to cheer them on. I love being part of this part of their life on a regular basis. Awesome, right? So just do that. And then again, I encourage you to share your list, right? So if it's is on the business stuff and what you want to accomplish, share it with your team, right? Here's some visions for this year. And then maybe even ask them what are some things that they have as goals for themselves for this year. Maybe just one thing. Like, what's a personal goal that you have for yourself this year? And then ask them, like, what will it feel like when you've accomplished that? When you start to do this kind of thing for yourself, and when you start to do this kind of thing with your team, what you start to do is build a more cohesive team. Now what you start to do is you start to build a team who's aligned and working towards a goal with you. Now you're not isolated and doing it yourself. Or maybe it's with your family, maybe it's with your spouse, maybe it's with your kids, right? Talk about it, get people involved in it. Like, let this be a fun exercise where you're creating and manifesting the life that you desire. All right. I hope you'll do this. I hope you'll take this opportunity. I have to tell you, like I said, I've been doing this for years with clients. It's always super fun to do it. It's always super fun to hear how, what they did in terms of sharing it with their team or their family. And I've just always gotten very good feedback. And my experience of it is it's always really fun to do too. So I hope you give it a try. Thank you. Thank you for being part of this community, and thank you for listening and contributing. And if you have any other thoughts to share about this, by all means, drop them down below in the chat. And I look forward to seeing you next time on the Profit Builder Unscripted.